problemă. Avem o situație cu doamna ambasadoare Finlandei. Așa. Deci dacă le puteți ajuta... Da. Am eu mobilul, îl trimit eu. Dacă puteți nota, vi spun acum, eu ar fi trebuit să încep evenimentul acum 10 minute. Am sunat să și nu răspund.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, thank you so much for being here with us in such an important day for all of us as women, as people, as human beings that are living on this planet. It is important to celebrate women in general and their important role in diplomacy, international organizations and peacemaking. I have here with me in the speaking panel some extraordinary ladies. I will present them to you. I mean, obviously you know them already, but I will present them to you one by one as they speak. Firstly, as an introduction, I would like to tell you some words about the importance of women in diplomacy and in peacemaking. I will read it to you. It's short. It's part of a study that analyzed the importance of women having an active role in the peacemaking process. The presence of women in peace processes is not just a matter of gender equality, but also a crucial strategic factor for conflict prevention and ensuring sustainable peace. A report published by the International Peace Institute provides strong empirical evidence supporting the idea that women's participation in peace negotiations not only improves the success rate of agreements, but also contributes to preventing the recurrence of conflicts. The study, based on Geneva Graduate Institute's Broadening Participation Project, analyzed 182 peace agreements signed between 1989 and 2011, and concluded that when women are actively involved, the likelihood of a peace agreement enduring for 15 years at least rises by 35%. One reason women contribute to the stability of agreements is that they tend to broaden the negotiation agenda, incorporating issues related to economic development, human rights, and social reconciliation. Instead of focusing solely on the immediate cessation of the hostilities, women introduce measures that help prevent conflicts from re-emerging, such as institutional reforms and the establishment of effective transnational justice mechanisms. Thus, integrating women into peace negotiations is not just a moral obligation or a human rights principle, but also a pragmatic strategy for conflict prevention and building sustainable peace. Therefore, promoting women's participation in peace negotiations should not only be a priority for international organizations and governments, but also a fundamental goal for any strategy for maintaining global peace and security. Those being said, this is why we chose this theme for our event, Women's Voices in Diplomacy, because it is important to emphasize the role that us, women in general, have in such organizations. First of all, I would like to give the floor for the opening remarks to our Director General, Liliana Popescu-Bârlan.
Your Excellencies, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, it is my honor and my pleasure to open this event, which was fully organized by my colleagues, which I'm so grateful for. They are a young generation full of energy, mainly ladies, and one of them is Teodora, who is moderating the event, but also we have Simina and Christy. So I would like to, first of all, to acknowledge their effort. And I think this is a feature of us women, maybe not all of us, but generally, we tend to have this, to show gratitude for what we get. Perhaps because because usually we achieve things with more effort, and I think that this is something that is present in many studies, academic and non-academic studies, that women tend to put a lot of energy in order to achieve things. We are living in a very difficult situation. I'm talking now about geopolitical situation with a number of trends happening that are definitely at the disadvantage of women. I don't want to get into details because I know that each of us has knowledge of what is happening, basically. But what I would like, and I'm so happy we have this event here. This is my last day in the Institute. I will tell you at the end. It will come out at the end. I'm so happy that we have this event because it's so important for us women to build solidarity and support each other. The other day I met a former colleague from the National University of Political and Administrative Studies and talking with another colleague. And they were, they kind of expressed, I could sense from their face expression that they were so kind of worried. And I said, don't worry, we have our secret weapon. And, it was Alina Bergăuan, who is a well-known public figure, and another colleague. And I said, don't worry, we have our secret weapon. And she said, which one? Our solidarity. I think solidarity is extremely important, and I think at this moment, and that's the importance of the fact that we have this event in the Diplomatic Institute, because the Diplomatic Institute obviously has this international dimension. So I think that right now it's so important to build solidarity across the nations, across the region, across Europe, and across the world. Of course, it's not going to be easy because the status of women, as I emphasized on a different occasion, still here, the differences are very, very big. It's one thing to be a woman in Afghanistan, another thing to be a woman in the Netherlands or in Europe. It's one thing to be a woman in Pakistan or in Gaza, for that matter, and another thing to be a woman in the US or in Iceland or in Mexico. Still, if we look at the evolution, international evolution, we see that women became to be more daring in terms of assuming leadership positions. This is extremely important. And I think this is a trend that is going to continue despite the situation, the present situation, which is kind of alarming when it comes to the attitude of this, manosphere that is building. And when I'm saying manosphere, I'm talking about the toxic attitudes towards women. So, to be honest, of course, we are in a very difficult situation. But as I learned in a fairly recent training, you need to look for the golden nuggets. In the worst situation you are in, you have to look to find the golden nuggets, meaning the good things in the situation. Because if you don't find those, then you are done. You are done psychologically from the very beginning. And I think this is the most important thing for us as women in this period, to build resilience. Resilience as women, as human beings. So yes, I'm so happy that I'm here today with you. We can discuss, I'm sure there will be discussions after so many, not many, few, but very important speeches by my colleagues who have tremendous experiences in their fields. So thank you for being with us. Thank you to the sponsors. This was, again, I'm praising my colleagues who succeeded, in a difficult time when the government is trying to do this and that with the budget, they are tough, Thank you so much.
So much, Mr. Privesc, for everything that you've done for us. We will continue with Ramona Chiriac. She's the head of the European Commission to Romania. So please.
let's make it more festive, and I will speak from here. So, dear director, dear Liliana, dear presidential counselor, dear Sandra, dear president of the Red Cross, dear colleagues, your excellencies, dear colleagues, dear participants. As you may know, it gives me great pleasure to participate in any event dealing with our role in the world. As a woman and as head of European Commission representation in Romania, I believe it is, of course, essential that women have an equal voice in society and that this voice is heard. This is a fundamental democratic right. The inclination of women towards diplomacy is not something new. In 400 BC, Aristophanes wrote Lysistrate, a comedy about women living in 3 different cities who, frustrated by the men's lack of success, organized themselves to end the Peloponnesian War. Aristophanes used the metaphor of weaving to portray women of exceptional diplomatic ability who pull together the strands of society to negotiate peace and weave the fabrics of nations. Almost 2,500 years later, the role of women in democracy and peacekeeping is increasingly seen as indispensable, especially given the current geopolitical context. In 2024, we witnessed one of the biggest electoral years in the world. However, the data point to the fact that there are only 28 women that serve as heads of state or government, and that the current rate, gender equality in the highest positions of power, will not be reached for another 130 years. In 2023, looking at the European Union, only 6 member states achieved a gender balance of greater percentage than 40%. With 7 member states having fewer than 25% female MEPs. The European Parliament is close to a gender balance of members of 40% women and 60% men. And as of January 2024, only 5 member states out of 27 have female heads of state. Globally, women hold 26.7% of parliamentary seats, 35 at local government seats, and 28 of management positions in the workplace. According to the UN data, the 5 most commonly portfolios held by women in government, and you also can see this in Romania, are gender equality, followed by family and children affairs, social inclusion and development, social protection and social security, and indigenous and minority affairs. There are ways to deal with this further. We shouldn't just wait another generation. We shouldn't slowly wait for history to take its course. My experience is that gender equality does not just happen. Every step forward has to be fought for, and it can easily be lost. Real equality requires attention and commitment every day. Women's political participation is critical for a well-functioning democracy, and their inclusion is a matter of justice and a key factor in creating a more effective governance. Having more women in policy making has shown to help advance legislation on crucial issues, such as health, education, childcare, infrastructure, and ending violence against women, and also, of course, serve an inspiration for girls to pursue higher education and career opportunities. We also have inspiring examples at the helm of the European Union, which leads by example. The first commission to be led by a woman, Ursula von der Leyen, and composed of a gender-balanced college of commissioners with the first commissioner for equality, they have all succeeded to put gender equality at the heart of our European agenda. And we are walking the talk, because in the Commission, since March last year, women hold 48.5% of all management positions within the Commission. Of course, the critics say we're 51%, so the critics may say we're 51% on the planet, so we're still, but anyway, the parity is something that President von der Leyen very much strives for. And of course, Romania is an excellent example with the current Executive Vice President for People, Skills and Preparedness, Roxana Mânzaru. We can shape the course of history, including with laws and with public investment, and this is why Europe is investing in affordable childcare for all families, including substantial resources in the Next Generation Plan, of which the PNRR, the Romanian National Plan, is also funded, so that no one has to choose between being a parent and having a career. Parenthood should never be viewed as an impediment to work or leadership positions. I believe we can break gender biases when we enable enough women to actually reach the top and lead. One of our solutions at the European Union level is to include quotas for women on management boards. The proportion of women on the boards of the largest listed companies in EU member states reached an all-time high of 32% in 2022, but it is still below the gender balance threshold, which is at 40%. So there is still work to be done, and the EU is leading with concrete policy measures supported by comprehensive EU funding. A recent breakthrough is the political agreement reached last year in February on the Commission's proposal for a directive on combating violence against women and domestic violence. This is the first comprehensive legal instrument at the EU level to tackle violence against women, which is still too pervasive. And the past 4 years were marked by other important legislative milestones, such as our Pay Transparency Directive, which you may know, focusing on the principle of equal pay for equal work, or work of equal value, which is actually a value enshrined in the treaty since 1957. Now it has finally become a reality on the ground. As of August 2022, there is a new EU-wide work-life balance rights focus for parents and carers. We have started to apply the directive since August 2022, and we have presented a European care strategy which links the new targets on early childhood education and care to enhance women's labor market participation. As you may know, there are still millions of women in the European Union who are not present on the labor market. Let me address another issue, the media, and in particular online abuse, prejudices against women, all women, but now we focus on women in decision-making positions, and stereotypes based on gender roles and women's leadership abilities remain fairly universal. A study of the Council of Europe reported that around 85% of female parliamentarians have suffered psychological violence during their term in office. So there is a clear need to make politics and the media that surrounds it more female-friendly. Ladies and gentlemen, behaviors and beliefs about gender, about the social roles of women and men in societies are deeply encoded, and they vary across global cultures and traditions, as also Mrs. Popescu was saying. Furthermore, we are navigating a VUCA world, a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, and now this is more than ever obvious to all of us, also in our recent European history. Entrenched power structures and attitudes persist. The proliferation of social media algorithms that serve up increasingly extreme content and fake news, and the lack of trust in our societies exacerbates the challenges we face. It may be too naive to say the time for women has come, because indeed women have been playing enormous roles since forever. But there is now an opportunity, there is a legal framework at the level of the European Union, and I think there is a higher societal understanding for this. The time is now. And women as leaders, also in diplomacy, and while each of us are of course unique, we do share a set of attributes that make us much needed leaders in the world. The ability to think across divides, to intentionally set out to secure a solution rather than act in a more rigid territorial way, to really think to the long term and to look at societies as a whole, as humanity. Such qualities will serve us to achieve better outcomes on the stage of diplomacy and international relations. And we need people like you in the room and here and in leadership positions to keep women's issues high on the political agenda. And dear Liliana, events such as ones that we did together, violence against women in politics, chasing solutions, women empowerment challenges and success stories are proof of IDER's commitment in tackling all these issues. I don't know if you broke the news, but let me have a small laudatio for you. Thank you for your leadership, for your vision, and yes, for your courage and keeping these topics on the agenda. For those of you who don't know, maybe our foreign colleagues, Liliana is an anchor in the Romanian society. She is an academic. She is the one that has provided us with theoretical framework to understand where we are, has done the research together with other colleagues. When I was studying for my master's degree in gender studies, I was reading Liliana's books. So now to sit at the same table with you and for you to call me your friend and the other way around, I am honored. So thank you very much for everything you did. And let me close in a even more emotional way, telling all of us to be tough on issues, but kind to each other. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Kyriak. It was amazing. It is incredible the big steps that Europe, the European Union took in the last years in gender equality. So it's absolutely gorgeous. By saying that Romania is also doing great when it comes to doing great. It's doing good when it comes to gender equality. The last diplomacy index published by Anwar Gandesh Diplomacy Index, Gender Equality Diplomacy, shows that 41% of Romania's ambassadors are women, which is above the limit of the European Union, the medium of the European Union. So we are also improving our gender equality. That's absolutely amazing. So thank you so much for the speech. I will give the floor next to Mrs. Sandra Pralong. She is a state advisor at the presidential administration. Please.
Sorry, I'm limping for various reasons. Hello. Such a beautiful crowd. And I want to commend the men among us who are here and who are interested in gender and gender equality and the contribution that women may make on the international arena. My two colleagues, my two friends, Liliana and Ramona, have set a beautiful stage with emotion and with facts. And I'm going to speak in a personal manner, not as an advisor. I'm wishing that our friends in the media take this to be Chatham House rules, because not because I'm going to say something so extraordinarily provocative, but because I want to speak my mind. And my mind is a little angry right now. Liliana talked about solidarity, which is a great gift that women bring to the world. But without speaking up, solidarity means too little. So we have to speak up, because the world is changing, as you may have noticed, as we all notice. Every generation thinks that they're living in extraordinary times, but the tectonic plates we are blessed to see moving in our generation are just so momentous that it's worth taking a breath of fresh air and thinking about how it came about, why, and how to respond to this as women. Have we ever noticed that technological change really frightens us, frightens people, even at the individual level? To have a new iPhone that you don't know how to use is frustrating and stress-provoking. Think about it at the global level, at the national or generational level, how unsettling is to be in a world which is changing so rapidly that you cannot keep up with the news, which is literally happening right now. The fear of uncontrolled change brings out our worst instincts of fight. Of flight is impossible because we can't leave this planet yet. But if we believe our friend Elon Musk, we will soon. Thinking about international relations, the world until the 19th century, including the 19th century, was a dog-eat-dog or a Hobbesian world of a jungle in which the meek were eaten by the strong, in which there was no compassion, in which big powers had predatory attitudes. Think about colonialism. What was it? But the idea that you can help yourself to thy neighbors far or near goods and land. It took the earth-shattering of the nuclear age for us to calm down and to understand that maybe we need to usher a kinder and safer world, because the balance of power allowed us the time and the respite to actually create a better world. Women have been extraordinary in the early 20th century as they started using technology to free themselves and to develop their contribution in the world. Think about all the technological aid that we had in the household: washing machines, ironing, electrical irons. I mean, these may seem mundane changes, but on a global scale, they create time for women to actually contribute to society. And their contribution was notable, so notable that even defense contractors in the late 90s and early millennium, 2000 and something, were aware that they need more women on their boards because a gender-balanced board produces better results. Actually, a few, maybe 10 years ago, McKinsey did a study in which it showed that those companies with gender balanced boards and gender balance in their senior management produced up to 35% more profit than those who didn't have enough women on their boards. 35%, like for people churning figures, It's not a small amount. It's not a negligible amount. We should tell that to our American friends. Personal remarks. Okay. Carol Gilligan, a friend of us women, and of Liliana's, a political scientist and philosopher, American, published a seminal work in the early 80s, because I was in school when I read her, and she was next door at Harvard, called In a Different Voice. That different voice was that of women. She actually understood that men and women are raised differently, and therefore they have different values, and therefore they bring to the table very different approaches to problem solving, which is what life is all about, right? Isn't all life about problem solving, big or small? Her understanding was that men were schooled in the win-lose mindset. They were, you tell me when I'm extending my welcome too unbearably for you all. Men have a zero-sum game mindset, win-lose. What I take, you lose. What I win, you miss. What I get from you. It's a very transactional world, and one that values competitiveness, aggressivity, all those things that make you fight for what you think is yours. Women, on the other hand, bring a win-win attitude to problem solving. They want zero-sum game, positive-sum game results. They want to not predate the other, but to work together in cooperation. They're nurturers. They're people that want to bring peace and solutions that accommodate everyone. So in this world that emerged after World War II, women were given a place of choice. They fought for a place of choice. May I have my bottle of water, please? No glass. You'll allow me to. Thank you. You'll forgive my lack of elegance. They fought for their place at the table and created a world which was bearable for men and women, which was prosperous, as the world has been in the last, since the end of the Cold War and before, up to the big scare of 2001, where terrorism instilled new fears, and fears combined with rapid change in technology have heightened our sense of fragility and have developed this very how do you call it? Manosphere. I had read that, but I like the way you put it. Manosphere. All this idea about sovereignty is a manly way to assert, this is mine, and you won't get to it, okay? Which is natural when you consider the circumstances that bring it about. As I said, the international world prior to the First World War was a jungle in which everyone fought, everyone for predation. In the post-World War II world, we were peace, and the peace dividend was prosperity. But now rapid intelligence, artificial intelligence is carrying us beyond belief. By the way, have you ever noticed that we may be the last generation of non-bionic people, of naturally endowed people without artificial technological enhancements? I think that's amazing, because I look at you and I look at your nurture and your true selves. When we'll look at each other, I won't be around, but in 30 years, we won't know what chip and what brand of chip we're looking at. And that's a very interesting thought to have. So, all of what we're witnessing is about fear and trying to ride the tiger. The people in the US, has anyone heard or read Project 2025?
Yes.
Okay.
Scary.
Okay, yes, it is. It is a blueprint for what our American friends are unfolding, or they think they can unfold. And that is the doctrine of accelerationism. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Meaning that we want to accelerate technological change so fast so that we can actually get to, I won't get into the apocalyptic millennial world, because that is part of the picture, as you probably know. But we want to accelerate technological change in so much as to be masters of everything that is living and alive. Therefore, in that world, democracy is inefficient, because decision making taking by a multitude is to be shunned. It stops acceleration. So they don't want things to move slowly, they want things to move fast. And what can move fast? It's the idea that one person or a very small group of people should be in control and not allow power to be dispersed. The danger, it's a beautiful vision that everyone will live happily ever after, and it's a very enchanting promise for a world in which everyone is alike, everyone is white and male. But that means that in the rest of the world, the jungle risks growing back. And it behooves on women to not let the jungle grow back. And that's the call to action, is everywhere we see disrespect, everywhere. By the way, a parenthesis, we who have lived in Ceausescu's time, we have witnessed how power cows courage, how power bends heads and puts us in the position of an ostrich just to survive. There's nothing wrong with that. But in times like this, it takes courage to speak up. It takes women's solidarity to speak up, to not allow the jungle to grow back. So please remain with this idea that all of us, women and men, who are here and those who support the cause of an equal and gender balanced world, have machetes, but peaceful machetes, to cut off the tentacles that every discrimination or every program against diversity, every attempt to cow democracy or gender balance or women's role is something that it behooves on each and every one of us to fight and to not think necessarily about our individual interest, but to try to raise above our condition, because the jungle is peopled with animals, but the world ought to be peopled with human beings. And those are beautiful, compassionate, generous, and caring souls, like all of us here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much, Mrs. Braddock. It was an absolutely amazing speech. This doesn't work. We just put batteries in it. Ah, okay, it works perfect. You mentioned a good thing, that women are focused on working together on solving problems, and before you, Mrs. Popescu, said that the status that we have right now is different accordingly to the place we are born in. So this is why, for example, humanitarian work is very important to all of us. So diplomacy goes to another level when it comes to people, when it comes to people's life. So we are glad to have next to us the president of the Romanian Committee of the Red Cross, Mrs. Camelia Shuku. Not the international committee, even though we wouldn't say no. I mean, we would like that. But it's also good to mention that the International Committee of the Red Cross, also ruled by a woman, Mrs. Mirjana Igar. So women are empowered when it comes to humanitarian work. Please.
And to complete you, also the president of the International Red Cross is a woman. So yes, it seems that women are also empowering humanitarian work. Dear friends, because I have to call you friends, being here, it's really difficult to speak after so emotional speeches of these three ladies, and especially Sandra, that I know her for so many years, of course, but thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to speak about the role of the diplomacy in humanitarian work. When I was elected president of the Romanian Red Cross 2 years ago, I understood that this journey is not just about the organization and strategy, it's about people. About those in need to help, to be helped, and those willing to help and to offer it. And I could not have had a better source of inspiration than Queen Mary, who not only stood among those who were suffering, but also used diplomacy to mobilize international aid and support. Through its 149 years of existence, the Romanian Red Cross has been supported by remarkable personalities. And Queen Mary was a true model of humanitarian leadership, earning the title of the Soldier Queen for her dedication to caring for the wounded during World War I. The Romanian Red Cross is part of the International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement, the largest humanitarian network in the world. It's present in 192 countries. Every year, this movement mobilizes millions of volunteers and resources to respond to disasters, humanitarian crises, and major social challenges. Here in Romania, we have the responsibility to be also an active part of this effort. We are the most important humanitarian organization in the country, with significant influence and a vast network of volunteers and partners who continue the mission of supporting vulnerable communities. We have 47 branches in the whole country, and we work together in different projects around the dignity of the human. Humanitarian diplomacy is not just about negotiation or treaties. It's about building trust-based relationship, fostering solidarity, and bringing together institutions, companies, and community members. In today's world, diplomacy has taken on many forms, and humanitarian diplomacy has become an essential component. As president of the Romanian Red Cross, I have embraced this mission, and I started from the very beginning to build bridges between institutions, private companies, and civil society, so that together we can provide more effective aid. And I have seen firsthand how crucial this is in times of crisis. A clear example is how we responded to the wave of refugees from Ukraine. Providing food and shelter was not enough. We needed close collaboration with government institutions, embassies, international organizations, and the business sector. This support network worked because we prioritized people over bureaucracy. Similarly, the recent floods in Vaslui and Galați counties confronted us with a dramatic situation, and we could quickly mobilize donors and sponsors from the private sector to support reconstruction efforts and to distribute essential aid to affected communities. The Romanian Red Cross campaign, People Help People, became the most successful disaster relief fundraising campaign in the organization history. This is the power of solidarity and diplomacy. And I believe that humanitarian diplomacy is shared responsibility. Whether we are institution leaders, private sector representatives, or members of civil society, each of us can contribute to building a safer and more united future. As also the ladies that speak before me, I have to say that in these times, solidarity, common effort, empathy that it's part of our of the human based empathy is very, very woman. We have to be more united. Thank you for being here, and thank you for listening to the great speeches before me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Shuku, for being here with us today. It's an honor for us. Due to unexpected situations, as it happens, and you know it very well, Her Excellency Mrs. Lukonen couldn't be here with us today. So,
Another Nordic ambassador is willing to step in.
Yes.
oh please, well, my Sweden, provide.
This is very much Chatham House then. Thank you, Pablo.
And last year Therese was also.
But Anna, you need an introduction. I will introduce you.
Okay, thank you. This is.
So we have the pleasure to welcome Her Excellency the Ambassador of Sweden to Romania, Anna Hellerman. And she is a big supporter of all gender topics, and she offers her embassy and herself and her voice as a platform for many Romanian NGOs and stakeholders in the field. So, welcome.
Thank you. So, first of all, I'm very glad to be here. We were discussing before that I have received the advice of some male colleagues that you should never attend events if you don't speak. And I was thinking about that. You know, I've just come here. We are in a stage where I think we should listen even more than we talk. You are new in a country, so when I go to an event and I don't speak, I sort of also scout people. Oh, this is a lady I need to speak to on trafficking, or this is a man I want to speak to on that. So that is just, but now I stand here anyhow, thanks to you, Pablo. So I have been here since August. I am very pleased to be here in Bucharest and Romania. And one thing that I'm very positively surprised about is all the powerful women here, which we see one example here at the panel, and from all sectors of society. Sweden has for long been considered a pioneer in gender equality. And I think we have some good things speaking for us. We have slightly more than 50% being ambassadors now in Sweden. We have, I think, if I were to now spontaneously pinpoint some of the things that have led there, I think the parental leave and affordable childcare has probably been, I see my Norwegian colleague nodding. I also think the sort of separate taxation and women being in the workforce is another thing, because I do think that economic empowerment is key for many of the other, and security-wise, in being listened to, being independent. And this also, of course, which has been mentioned here, create role models, that we need to see that it's possible to do things. Someone said at an event we were at yesterday together with a representative from the Red Cross that we cannot tell girls that everything is possible, we have to show them that everything is possible. Also to say, we have pioneered gender equality, but this is not something that we can, it's a continuous work. It's not something, I mean, we also have a lot of challenges. We have women doing the majority of the unpaid work. We have still justice cases where raped women are being asked what they are wearing, etc. So just to say that this is something where we all can share experiences. And I think it's important to do it also between the sectors. A few of the things that I think we need to do now. We have said that we live in difficult times. And I think that in general, not just gender equality, many of the values that we have taken for granted will be challenged. And this means we need to sharpen how we work on them. We cannot just say, okay, we have a project and we want you to be gender equal. This will be a buzzword that everyone needs to include. We need to be smarter. how do we frame what we do? Maybe the efficiency argument now, when we all will spend a lot on defense and we need to be more competitive, maybe that is actually one key point on sort of, we need to draw upon, we cannot afford to not draw upon all the resources. I think it's also important, and I've thought a lot about that the last days when we've had a lot of these gatherings, we should not preach to the choirs, but in hard times, maybe we also need this sort of boost that we actually get together and we sharpen our arguments together, and so both reaching out, listening to others, but also not preaching to the choir, but talking, strengthening amongst ourselves. And just to also say, I very much agree that this is not a women's issue. This is something, it's something we all need to work on. And as a mother of 4 boys raised in the digital era, I'm very worried about this sort of the tone at the top in certain instances. And this is something that we also need to try to change together. But thank you for and I should say there seemed to be a misunderstanding with Lena, and I know that she was very eager to come, and I also wanted to come to support her. So this is sort of from the Nordic flank. Yay. We also have our Norwegian colleague here. Thank you.
That was really nice. It was an amazing surprise. Speaking about surprises, we also have an intervention, an online intervention. It's a pre-recorded video of a very special lady. She is, maybe you will guess her before she appears there on the screen. Oh, she already did. She's the first female ambassador from Romania to head an international body. And she's the first woman in Romanian diplomacy to hold the diplomatic rank of ambassador. And she is the president of the 42nd session of the General Conference of UNESCO. I don't. So Mrs. Miculescu, she recorded a video for all of us. So please, let's listen to her.
Your Excellencies, esteemed guests, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, please receive warm greetings from Paris. And let me say first how delighted I am to address you in this timely international conference organized by the Romanian Diplomatic Institute, to whom I extend my heartfelt congratulations and gratitude for this excellent initiative that provides a vital platform to reflect on the role of women in diplomacy and generate, hopefully, meaningful exchanges. As the former Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan, so powerfully stated, and it's not by chance that he has been the most quoted Secretary General ever, there is no tool for development more effective than the empowerment of women. His words remain as relevant today as ever, reminding us that fostering gender equality in diplomacy is not only a matter of fairness, but also a necessity for building stronger and more inclusive multilateralism. I am the adept of breaking glass ceilings that I preach for all the time. That is how I managed to become the first woman to be granted the diplomatic rank of ambassador in the Romanian diplomacy, or the first woman to become ambassador to the UN and to UNESCO, or from my current position as president of the UNESCO General Conference, the first Romanian to be elected to a leadership position in this organization, or being just the 5th woman to hold this position in its history of UNESCO's 80 years of existence. These milestones are not just personal achievements that you might accuse me of bragging about. They are simple proofs that women can and have to dare more in shaping the international agenda. I'm proud to highlight here that the gender equality is one of UNESCO's transversal global priorities. Actually, it is a cause that resonates deeply with the mission of multilateralism itself, fostering inclusivity, equity, and progress for all. That is why I'm delighted to mention that since 2022, we have been celebrating annually on the 25th of January the International Day of Women in Multilateralism, an initiative of Gabon, co-sponsored also by Romania. And this occasion serves as a reminder of the invaluable contributions women have made and continue to make in diplomacy and international leadership. For many decades, the United Nations have constantly emphasized that gender equality and the full participation of women are fundamental to achieving each of the Sustainable Development Goals set out in its 2030 agenda. As you know, SDG 5 is specifically dedicated to gender equality, acknowledging that inclusive leadership is essential to building a sustainable and peaceful future. However, achieving gender parity is not only a policy matter, it is a shared responsibility. It requires strengthened solidarity between women and men, as well as among women themselves. By fostering constructive synergies and supporting women's leadership in international organizations, regional institutions, and multilateral frameworks, we can accelerate real change. But for this, we need to encourage, support, and inspire ever more the younger generation. In this context, I have the pleasure to share with you a new project that is particularly close to my heart, the online platform Mentors on Multilateralism, which I recently launched on YouTube. This initiative bringing together women ambassadors, diplomats, and international civil servants at UNESCO to share their experiences and inspire next generation of women leaders through testimonies. By embracing storytelling and mentorship, we seek to illuminate the path for young women aspiring to careers in diplomacy and international relations. I warmly invite you all to access this platform and contribute at least to its dissemination. Like, subscribe, ensuring its reach and impact grow stronger. Our goal must be to transform today's leaders into role models for younger ladies, inspiring them to pursue careers in international affairs and diplomacy. By fostering mentorship, by celebrating achievements, and by ensuring that women's voices are heard at every level, we wish to contribute to the empowerment of future generations. Despite our progress, we must acknowledge that women's expertise and leadership in diplomacy and multilateralism remain insufficiently recognized. This limited recognition does not reflect the pivotal role women actually play in peace building, intercultural exchange, and conflict resolution, but we must work collectively to correct the imbalances. Furthermore, beyond policies and initiatives, we must also acknowledge the lived realities of women in diplomacy. The challenges of work-life balance can affect the career advancement of women diplomats. We all know that. It is crucial to create networks for women diplomats, allowing them to exchange best practices and facilitate their careers in diplomacy. Equally important is fostering an institutional culture that not only supports but also actively recognizes women's leadership, ensuring that their contributions are valued and their potential fully realized. On a personal note, I believe that the least we can do to support the woman empowerment and its recognition in general as a key player in society is to always strive, each of us, to achieve excellence in everything, vigilance, to always dare, as I said, to turn men into allies and champions of women empowerment, and especially to continue to support each other. It is not by chance that Madeleine Albright said that there is a special place in hell for women who do not help other women. Let this conference be an opportunity not only to reflect on how far we have come, but also to determine the concrete steps needed to move forward. The future of diplomacy must be diverse, inclusive, and enriched by the perspectives of women leaders. It is our shared responsibility to ensure that no voice goes unheard, and that every woman who aspires to make a difference has the opportunity to do so. Thank you for your commitment to this cause, And I wish you fruitful exchanges and insightful discussions, and together let us continue to advance the role of women in diplomacy and build a more equitable and representative multilateral system in this world in turmoil. And, by the way, happy International Women's Day. Thank you.
So we give the floor to you right now. Take benefit of this amazing panel to ask questions, curiosities, whatever you would like to know from their expertise. Yes, please, Your Excellency.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Yes, good afternoon. Sorry, I'll just sit here. I won't stand up. This is not very polite, but I'll just sit here. Anyway, I'm also limping a little bit. So I'm the ambassador of Mexico to Romania and also to the Republic of Moldova. I'm a resident. I very much, first of all, I would really like to thank Dr. Liliana Popescu-Bernan for her work, for her leadership in this institute. We've had very good conversations, good meetings. I've attended some of the conferences here, including the previous ones on relating to women's issues or Women's Day. And also there was another event that very much was possible thanks to your leadership, the one in Latin America last year, which was very successful. So I wish you all success in your next, I assume you will continue as an academic, and I also assume you will continue, no, well, then I won't ask you. Anyway, in any case, thank you very much for your leadership and friendship. And, you know, I don't want to be repetitive. Every time we have these events, I take the floor and just to say the general issues that in the case of Mexico, we have officially a feminist foreign policy since 2020. In Latin America, I believe it's only three. Latin America and the Caribbean. Let's remind us that it's the whole. It's Mexico, Chile, and Colombia that have this. I believe Mexico was the first, or it doesn't matter which one. Colombia, I think, was the latest one the Colombian government was the latest one to officially adopt a feminist foreign policy. I mean, there's still obviously a lot to do. We also have in Mexico, for the first time in our history, a woman who was a president, who was elected president with very high support in terms of voter turnout, and also she still has, right now she has very, very high popularity in terms of and of course she is a role model for women and girls in Mexico. This is very important. She has this saying that was mentioned today, that this is a tiempo de mujeres, es tiempo de mujeres, it's time for women. It may be, as somebody here mentioned, I think it may sound naive, but it's one has to take it as an opportunity for a country that is a very complex country, very big in terms of population, territorial. I mean, it's also in terms of disparities, social disparities, regional disparities. So there's still a lot to do in terms of women's rights, gender perspective, and gender equality. There is an ongoing problem that women and girls face of violence, which is not unique to Mexico, I must say, but it's an issue, and that is why Mexican women and girls protest usually around the 8th of March with huge demonstrations. They're not really, they're celebrations, but they're mostly a call to fight, I guess is the right word. And of course we still have issues with access, disparities in terms of access to education, work and health. So a lot remains to be done, but I think in the case of our country, we have an opportunity. It's also, our president is not the first woman who becomes head of state or head of government in Latin America and the Caribbean. Of course, we've had first president in Chile, Bachelet. We've had right now the president in Honduras. the Prime Minister of Barbados, who's really powerful. Huh? She's the one who's... well, you had a president, yeah, there was a... yeah. So in the case of... but our president is the first woman to become president or prime minister in our sub-region, which is North America, because we are North America.
Yay.
That is our reason. Romania write to us to embassy and say, South America, you know, we're not South America, we're not Central America, we're part of a sub-region, which is North America, and in this case, our president is the first woman to reach this position. So that's
the greater Mexican continent.
And let us hope that in the next, who knows, we might have in the future a woman who becomes Secretary General of the UN, because that's still pending. And it should be, I believe.
There is a UN.
Yeah. That's a UN process, but it's also important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much, Your Excellency. Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. President?
I would like to answer, first of all, thank you very much for your very kind words. As I said, I would like to say that starting on Monday, I will be working for the civilian mission of the European Union, the advisory mission in Kiev, Ukraine. As I will be the head of strategic reform within this mission. I applied in November, and starting January, I started to prepare. I underwent a number of courses, training courses, very interesting. That's the place where I found out about the golden nuggets. So I'm conveying that to you. Thank you so much.
Other questions, other interventions from the room? Yes, please.
Hi everyone. First of all, just to follow the advice of the Swedish ambassador, don't go or don't attend a meeting without talking. So this is also my advice today. So my name is Catalina Olteanu. I work for the National Council for Combating Discrimination in Romania. It's a public institution dealing with discrimination in Romania according to our anti-discrimination legal framework. So just to follow the message or the video that our previous speaker, I just want to say that if it's hard to a woman to overcome the prejudice and the stereotypes towards us, imagine how it's for a woman coming from minorities or having minorities backgrounds in Romania, in Europe, all over the world, to overcome these stereotypes and prejudice. So just to remind, just a kind reminder is to talk more about intersectionality, because if we intend to have a better world, we should not forget about the women who is facing intersectionality discrimination or institutional racism because they were born in a minority in Romania or a different background all over the world. So it's very important to be to support each other regardless our minority or ethnicity, and to be more open even in diplomacy to have women with minority backgrounds. Being the first Roma woman appointed in 23 years of existence of this institution in Romania, and I was appointed by the parliament 5 years ago, I think, and I speak from my own experience, that I needed and still need support from the women that already overcome the prejudice and stereotypes against women in politics or in diplomacy. Thank you.
Thank you,
Excellencies, may I first present myself. My name is Alexia and I'm a second-year student at the National School of Political and Administrative Studies, and I am at the Department for International Relations, and throughout these 2 years of university I have often faced difficulties in my professional field, and more so when it came to speaking up on matters, projects, and even when I try to be considered for a position in politics. Sometimes even from other women, unfortunately, despite the discourse on solidarity and mutual support. Given your esteemed positions and your achievements during your lifelong careers in diplomacy and politics, I would like to ask if you have encountered some of the challenges and how have you managed to overcome them? Thank you.
I love your English.
Thank you.
Where did you learn? Where did you learn?
I did 9 years of private lessons in Bucharest with a teacher from England.
With an Oxford train. Great. So I'm sorry, I was thinking that I need a personal assistant, and I was just writing to the former dean of CNSPA, Mrs. Popescu, if she knows. Factotum. If she knows anyone, I know, I got it, but just to tell you that this kind of standing up, having the courage and asking pertinent questions, or even if you don't think they're pertinent, to ask questions is the best advice that you already took, you know, for yourself. You know, speaking of sitting at the table, there are studies that show that women in a boardroom or in a meeting room where there are men and women, men sit at the main table and women sit in the back seats. So the key is sit at the table. Make sure you grab a chair, kindly, politely, elegantly, and sit at the table. And once there, speak up. And don't be afraid, because everyone is vulnerable. Everyone, many men know much less in any situation that you do, and so courage. I wanted to say, and I missed the beat in my speech, courage and compassion is what makes a woman a valuable member of the human race. Courage and compassion. So have courage and compassion and stand up and ask questions like you just did, sit at the table, and there. We all have insecurities, women much more than men, so there, courage.
Thank you.
So happy to offer a bit of a testimonial. Just to tell you that I see you and I hear you, and for many, maybe the younger colleagues in the room, don't think for a second that us sitting at this table are not faced daily with microaggressions, are not reminded daily when we are the only woman in a photo, or the only woman in a panel, or the only woman in a meeting with the big guys of the country. That we are not reminded that what we have is precious and that it's not the norm. Don't think for a second that, and I want to speak for everybody, but that we don't have our stories. of sexual harassment, of having to explain ourselves, of having to work twice or thrice to prove ourselves, of still being overlooked. Don't think for a second we don't have stories about lack of solidarity of women, which especially in Romania is still a shocking fact. We are trained and socialized as women to compete with each other for a job, for a husband, for looks, for wearing the nicest clothes and so on. We're never taught that it is about applauding. I am the first one to applaud any other woman that steps up. I'm the first one when I see another woman and I'm talking in a group to make that gesture and invite her to the talk. So, you know, advice. I mean, we each have our unique paths. I would say, because I see you have courage, so that's, I would say build your network. You know, engage, try to find the contacts, build on them, find some good mentors, but first and foremost, always look within yourselves. If you know your value, and that's home, that's where you need to be in contact with, then you're good, you know. It will be difficult. I went through moments where I literally did not have a seat at the table where I was supposed to sit in an official capacity. And someone had to bring the chair. So, you know, it's metaphorical, but at the same time, it's very much true. We all carry with us our fights, our burdens. We're happy to walk ahead, to walk in the path where other women walked before, and we're very much aware that we are our story, and you know, it is all about representation. This is why we do this event, this is why we speak up. The young ladies, you need to look to see that it's possible. So when I took up this position, it was called șeful in Romania. Yes, I was not the first woman. And for many years, this was the presentation, the male boss, El Jefe, yeah? And the first day, really, my feminist instincts kicked in when I saw the placard on the door, and I said, I would like to be called șefa, reprezentanții. And then even my colleagues were like, no, but this sounds ironic. This is in jokes, where the husband tells the wife, bring some coffee, șefa, you know? But it is for us to inhabit the position, and it is for language to serve us and for societies to change with us. So there's still so much to do. I just want you to know that we are all in the same game, and we all go through the same things, and we put on a good face and a brave face, and you know, just every opportunity you meet, take it, even if you will succeed or not. It's a learning process for all of us. Build your network and just anchor yourself in yourself.
If I may, just to step in, because I used to be a professor, and I still am a professor at the National University of Political and Administrative Studies, NSBA. I think that you need to kind of accept the world that we are living in. You need to get realistic in terms of accepting what it is. It's the first step. Accept what it is. Whether it's nice for you, whether it's not nice for you. For example, the fact that some women, and maybe many women, are misogynistic, because misogyny is not a male thing. Misogyny is very much internalized by many women. Don't expect them to be on your side. Perhaps occasionally you can be surprised that they are beside you, but I experienced situations, including in our university, in which I was on my own. So be prepared to be on your own. And I also have to say, I mean, I admire Ramona, I really admire her, because being a young woman, she knew her value. But I have to say, not for everybody this is the case. I think knowing your value comes with time. You build it. But at some point you realize, hey, I'm much more valuable than I thought at some point. And it may come as a revelation. Maybe you worked hard, you know, you actually didn't pay attention to your value. So think about that and don't expect everything to come on a tray. Nothing comes already prepared. You have to prepare and you have to build your future. So good luck with that.
I want to say just a few words. And I'm talking from my experience in business sector. That everybody is calling business sector like the male sector. Yeah. This is a barrier that we put it ourselves. Don't put it. And in your experience, because as the lady said, life is full of experiences. And you can find out that the worst experiences are the most wonderful times when you build up the person that you are going to become. Don't lose ever your femininity, because this is the most beautiful thing that God gave us. And take the life and make it full. It's full of experiences, but you are going to see. It's nice.
This will be our last intervention. After that, we will serve a glass of wine and some sweets, so we will have time to ask the ladies whatever you need.
Okay, then I will be very short. Good morning or good afternoon already. I'm Anna Liati, I'm the UNICEF representative to Romania. And of course, as part of our work in UNICEF, gender equality and empowerment of girls and women is at the core of what we try and strive to do every day. Thank you for this gathering and for your continued commitment. Thanks to all of you for the inspiring words. I have to say this is what personally I need more and more on daily basis, as we are at the UN facing an enormous challenge. As you might be aware, we are facing enormous funding gaps, and this will have a negative impact on the gender equality and women and girls empowerment. So this is part of the context that we are living in. I feel that what you all said, that a women trait is to express solidarity, to be kind, to be courageous. I think there is another important trait that a woman carries, which is the responsibility. I think we have the responsibility, especially now, to act, and I know that all of us in our functions and daily job, we perform that. And that is why I said yesterday what the ambassador of Sweden was referring to. It's not enough to work with the younger generation and to tell them that they can do whatever they want, but we really need to show them how to do that. Now, I wanted to ask a question, and I have to say I'm blessed to work with so many girls and young people, and they give me a lot of positivism and now a positive outlook, and I trust that the young generation will help us go through this. But two considerations, if you have the time to reflect on. One is the importance of the intergenerational dialogue. Because I feel like nowadays, more and more, I think Sandra, you say something that was very important. All what is happening is difficult to understand, especially for our generation. So this continued dialogue and intergenerational dialogue is very important. And so more and more, I think, in whatever we do, we need to bring in at the table the youngest generation, the girls and the young women, who I think can co-create with us the gender equality that we want to see in the world. And the second point is the speed of the action that is required. I feel like, as you all mentioned, it's such an extraordinary time. But how can we, and I strongly believe that the mobilization now requires a different speed. Right. And so how can we do that, you know, and to expand all what we do around this 8th of March and International Women's Day in a way that we actually mobilize with a different speed, faster, and maybe also differently, addressing the times of today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. My colleague there. I want you to give me 3 minutes on the clock for the closing remarks. 3 minutes. I will go there. This event, in which we celebrated International Women's Day, was an excellent opportunity to emphasize the importance of women in diplomacy, in international organizations, in institutions. And we thank you for being here with us in such an important moment. So I would like to take this opportunity to tell you a story about a very special woman in diplomacy that I know. Firstly, she's a professor, an excellent one. Her warmness and professionalism is seen from the first moment you enter her class. It is the passion she's talking with, the knowledge she has, or maybe just pure charisma. But what I can tell you for sure is that it is impossible to attend one of her classes without being absorbed by her presence. Secondly, she's a friend and a confidant. She knows exactly how to put together work and fun, how to do the best jobs, but also unwind and relax after a long day. She has the best movies and book recommendations. She knows good food, and her fashion sense is absolutely amazing, especially in shoes. I've never seen her wear a pair of shoes that I didn't like. Thirdly, she is a mentor to any and each one of us. I remember so many conversations I had with her when I felt blue or I needed an empathetic ear, and she was there to help me. Being a young woman at the beginning of my career, she's a role model. She always gave me advice and encouragement, but also she let me know when I was in the wrong. And even though in the last example, I sometimes felt like I was having, a conversation with my mother when I did something wrong and she was telling me that, but I knew that she was doing that because she cared about me and because she believed in me, and I'm beyond grateful for that. Fourthly, she's a strong feminist. She's the definition of, as we used to say nowadays, a girl's girl, She sought any opportunity to promote young women and to make them feel appreciated. I'm one of them. She is constantly raising awareness about the injustice and inequality that women face every day. She wrote an incredible book. It's called Politica Sexelor, The Politics of the Sexes. If you haven't read it by now, please do so. You have to. It's absolutely amazing. Last but not least, she's the head of an institution, an example of a strong woman in diplomacy who managed and elevated it to the high standards. Every training we did, the conference we organized, or paper that we published was carefully thought with imagination, ingenuity, and attention to details. Every time she sensed that one of us needed help or that we had certain needs, she always tried her best to be next to us and help us. To say that she brought light to our work would be too little, because she brought a whole palette of light and colors to everything that we've done so far. Those being said, we want to wish her good luck and all the best in the new exciting journey that she's about to begin. Ms. Popescu, we thank you for everything. You are an example of a strong woman in diplomacy. We thank you so much.
This was the surprise. I kind of sensed that there was a surprise, but I didn't expect this. Yes. So yeah, thank you so much. Yes, I'm trying to do my best, and that's maybe for the new generation. The best that you can is not always what what others expect of you or the ideal. It's just the best you can give. So this is what I gave to the Institute. This is what I gave to my colleagues. And yeah, I'm going to cry.
Some wine, say wine, red wine, white wine, whatever you want.
Follow your path.